There's something absolutely fascinating that I want to share with you today. Something that might sound almost like a superpower, almost like magic, but is actually grounded in simple observation, psychology, and human nature. What if I told you that in just 60 seconds, just 1 minute of careful attention, you could understand what's really going on in someone's mind? Not because you have supernatural abilities, not because you're reading their thoughts literally, but because you're reading their thoughts literally, but because human beings, all of us, are constantly communicating far more than we realize through channels that have nothing to do with the words coming out of our mouths. Before we go any further, let me be very clear about something. When I say reading someone's mind in 60 seconds, I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm not talking about using this knowledge to deceive people or take advantage of them. I'm talking about developing a deeper understanding of human nature, about becoming more observant, more empathetic, more connected to the people around you. I'm talking about being able to see beyond the surface, beyond the masks we all wear, to understand what someone is really feeling, what they really need, what's really going on beneath their words. This is about connection, not control. This is about understanding, not manipulation. So how do you read someone's mind in 60 seconds? You pay attention, but not to what most people pay attention to. Most people, when they're in conversation with someone, they're waiting for their turn to speak. They're thinking about what they're going to say next. They're focused on their own thoughts, their own agenda, their own response. But if you want to truly understand what's going on in someone's mind, you need to shift your focus completely. You need to become an observer. You need to watch not just with your eyes, but with your entire awareness. And you need to understand that people reveal themselves constantly, every single second, through dozens of channels that most people completely miss. Let me break this down for you. In 60 seconds, you can gather an enormous amount of information about what's really going on in someone's mind if you know what to look for. And it all starts with understanding one fundamental truth. People lie with their words, but they tell the truth with their bodies. You can control what you say. You can choose your words carefully. You can craft your message to present yourself in a certain way. But your body is constantly betraying what's really going on inside. Your body language is like a direct pipeline to your subconscious mind, and it's very, very difficult to fake or control, especially when you're not aware that someone is observing it. So in the first few seconds, the very first thing you do is look at their eyes. The eyes, as they say, are the windows to the soul. And there's profound truth in this ancient wisdom. When someone is speaking to you, are they making eye contact? And I don't mean just glancing at you occasionally. I mean real, sustained, comfortable eye contact. If someone maintains steady eye contact while speaking to you, it generally indicates confidence, honesty, engagement. They're comfortable with what they're saying. They believe it. They're present with you. But if their eyes are darting around, if they're looking away frequently, if they can't quite hold your gaze, something else is happening. They might be nervous. They might be uncertain about what they're saying. They might be uncomfortable with the conversation. Or yes, they might be lying or hiding something. But here's where it gets more nuanced, more interesting. The direction their eyes move can tell you what's happening in their mind. When people look up and to the left, generally they're accessing visual memory. They're remembering something they actually saw. When they look up and to the right, they're constructing visual images. They're imagining something, creating a picture in their mind. When they look to the left horizontally, they're accessing auditory memory, remembering something they heard. To the right horizontally, they're constructing sounds, imagining what something might sound like. Down and to the left, they're having an internal dialogue with themselves. Down and to the right, they're accessing feelings and emotions. Now, these patterns can be reversed in left handed people, and they're not absolute rules, but they're remarkably consistent patterns that give you insight into what kind of mental processing someone is doing as they speak to you. But the eyes tell you even more. Look at the pupils. When someone is interested, engaged, attracted, their pupils dilate, they become larger. When someone is uncomfortable, disinterested, or seeing something they don't like, their pupils contract. You can't fake this. You can't control it consciously. It's an automatic response from the autonomic nervous system. So if you're talking to someone and their pupils are dilated, their mind is engaged with you, interested in what's happening. If their pupils are constricted, something is causing discomfort or disinterest, even if their words are saying something entirely different. Look at their blink rate. Normal blink rate is about 15 to 20 times per minute. When someone is stressed, anxious, or lying, their blink rate increases significantly, sometimes doubling or tripling. When someone is deeply focused or being very careful about what they're saying, their blink rate might decrease. These tiny signals are happening every second, and most people never know. Entice them. But once you start paying attention, once you start observing these patterns, you begin to see beneath the surface of what people are presenting. Now move your attention from the eyes to the face as a whole. And this is where you can gather enormous amounts of information in just seconds. Look at the symmetry of their expressions. When someone's facial expression is symmetrical, when both sides of their face are doing the same thing at the same time with the same intensity, that emotion is genuine. That's a real smile, real sadness, real surprise. But when the expression is asymmetric, when one side of the face is doing something slightly different from the other, or when the expression appears only on one part of the face, that's often a controlled expression, a manufactured emotion, something they're trying to show you, rather than something they're actually feeling. Pay special attention to micro expressions. These are facial expressions that last for just a fraction of a second, sometimes as little as 1/25th of a second, and they reveal true emotions before the person has time to consciously control their expression. You might ask someone a question, and for just a split second, maybe you see a flash of fear or anger or disgust before their face settles into a smile and they give you their verbal answer. That micro expression, that fleeting glimpse, that's what they're really feeling. That's the truth before the mask goes up. Learning to spot micro expressions takes practice, but once you develop this skill, you can see what people are really feeling, even when they're working very hard to hide it. Look at their mouth specifically. A genuine smile, a real smile that comes from actual happiness or joy, involves not just the mouth, but the entire face, and especially the eyes. The muscles around the eyes crinkle, creating what are called crow's feet. The cheeks raise. The whole face is involved. But a fake smile, a polite smile, a smile someone is giving you because they feel they should, that smile is only in the mouth. The eyes remain unchanged. The face is not fully engaged. Once you know this difference, you can instantly tell when someone is genuinely happy to see you versus just being polite. And this matters enormously in understanding what's really going on in someone's mind. Now let's move to posture and body position, because in 60 seconds, you can read volumes from how someone is holding their body in space. Are they leaning toward you or away from you? Leaning in generally indicates interest, engagement, attraction, comfort. Leaning away indicates discomfort, disinterest, desire to create distance. Are their shoulders open or closed? When someone's shoulders are back, chest open, they're feeling confident, receptive, comfortable. When shoulders are hunched forward, chest closed, they're feeling defensive, protective, uncomfortable, or insecure. Look at their arms. Are they crossed over their chest? This is one of the most classic defensive postures in human body language. It's a barrier, it's protection. It's a sign that someone is feeling the need to guard themselves from something, whether that's emotional discomfort, disagreement, or feeling attacked. Now, sometimes people cross their arms just because they're cold or because it's comfortable. So you can't take any single signal in isolation. But if you see crossed arms combined with other signs of discomfort, leaning back tight, facial expression, lack of eye contact, you're looking at someone who is definitely not comfortable with what's happening in the conversation. Look at their hands. This is incredibly revealing. When people are confident and comfortable, their hands are open and visible, palms often facing upward or outward. These are T, Rust signals. Open palms are a universal signal of honesty and openness because it shows you have nothing to hide, no weapon, no threat. But when people are uncomfortable, anxious, or hiding something, their hands often disappear. They put them in their pockets, behind their back, under the table, between their knees. They're literally hiding their hands as a reflection of hiding their true thoughts or feelings. Watch what they do with their hands while they talk. Genuine, confident communication often involves natural hand gestures that match and emphasize what's being said. But when someone is lying or uncomfortable, their gestures often don't match their words, or they become very stiff and controlled, or they might touch their face frequently, especially their nose, mouth, or neck. Touching the face is a self-soothing behavior that people do unconsciously when they're stressed, anxious, or being deceptive. Now pay attention to their feet. And I know this sounds strange, but the feet are actually one of the most honest parts of the body because most people have no idea their feet are communicating anything. When you're standing and talking to someone, look at which direction their feet are pointing. If their feet are pointing towards you, their mind is engaged with you. They want to be in this conversation. If their feet are pointing away, toward a door, toward someone else, even if their body is facing you, and they're making eye contact, their mind wants to be somewhere else. They want to leave this conversation. Their feet are literally pointing toward where they want to go. When someone is sitting and their foot is bouncing, tapping, or moving restlessly, that's typically a sign of anxiety, impatience, or discomfort. A completely still, grounded posture generally indicates comfort and presence. These signals are happening every second of every interaction, and they're telling you exactly what's going on in someone's mind if you're paying attention. Listen to their voice, not just their voice, but the qualities of their voice. The tone, the pitch, the pace, the volume. When people are confident and comfortable, their voice is typically steady, well-paced, clear, and projected at a comfortable volume. When people are nervous, anxious, or lying, their voice often changes. The pitch might go up. They might speak faster or slower than normal. They might speak more quietly. There might be unusual pauses or hesitations. The voice might crack or waver. These vocal cues are very difficult to control because they're connected to our emotional state and our nervous system. Pay attention to their breathing. Rapid, shallow breathing generally indicates stress, anxiety, or emotional arousal. Slow, deep breathing indicates calm and comfort. You can often see breathing patterns in the rise and fall of the chest or shoulders, and this gives you direct insight into someone's emotional state. in that moment. Now, here's something very important. Context is everything. You cannot take any single signal in isolation and draw a definitive conclusion. You need to look at clusters of signals. You need to see multiple indicators pointing in the same direction. And you need to establish a baseline. What I mean by baseline is this. Everyone has their own normal patterns of behavior. Some people naturally avoid eye contact because of cultural background or personality. Some people naturally fidget. Some people naturally speak quickly. You need to observe what's normal for this particular person in a neutral, comfortable situation, and then watch for deviations from that baseline. When someone who normally makes good eye contact suddenly can't look at you, that's significant. When someone who's normally calm suddenly starts fidgeting, that means something. The change from their baseline, that's what you're looking for. Let me give you a practical example of how this all comes together. Imagine you're having conversation with someone and you ask them a direct question about something important. In the next 60 seconds, here's what you might observe. They break eye contact and look down and to the right while answering, indicating they're accessing emotions rather than memories. Their pupils constrict slightly. One corner of their mouth turns up while the other doesn't, creating an asymmetric expression. They cross their arms over their chest. They touch their neck with one hand. Their feet shift and point toward the door. Their voice goes up slightly in pitch, and they speak a little faster than they have been. Now, no single one of these signals proves anything, but taken together, they're painting a very clear picture. This person is uncomfortable with the question. They're having an emotional response. They're feeling defensive. They want to leave this conversation, and whatever answer they're giving you, they're not confident about it or comfortable with it. They might be lying, they might be uncertain, they might be hiding something, or they might just be very uncomfortable with the topic. But either way, you know that what's coming out of their mouth is not the full story. Now contrast that with a different scenario. You ask the same question. They maintain steady eye contact, perhaps looking up and to the left, briefly as they access memory of actual events. Their pupils dilate slightly. Their expression is symmetrical. They lean in slightly. Their hands are visible and open, gesturing naturally as they speak. Their feet are pointed toward you. Their voice is steady and clear. Their breathing is calm. This person is comfortable, confident, engaged, and what they are telling you aligns with what they actually believe and remember. You can trust that their words are matching their internal state. This is the power of reading someone in 60 seconds. You're not actually reading their thoughts like a psychic. You're reading their body, their voice, their unconscious signals, all the things they're broadcasting constantly without even realizing it. And these signals give you a window into their emotional state, their level of comfort, their truthfulness, their actual interest in what's happening. But here's where this becomes even more powerful and more important. When you develop this ability to read people, you don't just use it to detect deception or discomfort. You use it to connect more deeply, to respond more appropriately, to show more empathy. If you can see that someone is uncomfortable, even though they're saying they're fine, you can adjust your approach. You can create more safety. You can ask different questions. You can give them space. If you can see that someone is interested and engaged, even though they're being quiet, you can encourage them to share more. If you can see that someone is anxious, you can be calming. If you can see that someone is excited, you can match their energy. Reading people is ultimately about becoming more attuned to the human experience, about recognizing that we're all walking around with complex internal worlds that we're not always expressing clearly with our words. When you can see beyond the words to what's really happening, you become a better friend, a better partner, a better leader, a better human being. You become someone who truly sees people, who truly understands them, who can respond to their actual needs rather than just their stated needs. And here's something beautiful that happens when you develop this skill. You become much more difficult to deceive, but you also become much more difficult to misunderstand. You pick up on genuine connection and genuine kindness that others might miss. You see when someone is struggling, even when they're putting on a brave face, and you can offer help. You notice when someone is interested in you, even when they're being shy. You perceive opportunities for connection that others walk right past. So how do you practice this? How do you develop this ability to read people in 60 seconds? You start paying attention today, right now, in your very next conversation. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, watch the person you're talking to. Really watch them. Notice their eyes, their face, their hands, their posture, their feet. Notice how these things change as the conversation progresses. As different topics come up, practice establishing baselines by observing people in comfortable, neutral situations, and then watching for changes. Watch people in public spaces, not in a creepy way, but as an observer of human nature. Watch how people interact, how their body language changes, how they signal interest or discomfort, or attraction, or disagreement, all without saying a word. The more you practice, the more natural this becomes, until it's not something you have to think about consciously. It's just something you naturally perceive. You become fluent in the language of human behavior that everyone is speaking all the time, but few people are actually listening to. And remember, use this power wisely. Use it to connect, to understand, to empathize, to help. Never use it to manipulate or control or take advantage of people, because the same principles that allow you to read others also mean that others, perhaps without even realizing it, are reading you. Your body language is telling your truth just as much as theirs is telling theirs. So become someone whose internal state and external presentation are aligned. Become someone whose words, body, and true feelings are all saying the same thing. That's integrity, that's authenticity, and that's ultimately what draws people to you and creates the deepest connections. In 60 seconds, you can see beneath the surface. You can understand what's really happening in someone's mind, not through magic, but through observation, through understanding human psychology, through paying attention to the signals that everyone is broadcasting, but few people are receiving. Develop this skill, practice it with awareness and compassion, and watch how your relationships, your conversations, your entire experience of human connection transforms